Hi, my name is Petros Karakousis. I'm a professor of medicine in the Division of Infectious Disease in the Department of Medicine here at Johns Hopkins. So I did my infectious disease training here at Hopkins, and then I joined the faculty in 2005. Since that time, I've been working on, my lab is focused really on the molecular mechanisms of Mycobacterium tuberculosis persistence and antibiotic tolerance. We do a lot of work at the molecular level using animal models to try to understand the pathways by which the organism is able to avoid killing by the host, as well as with antibiotic therapy. In addition, recently we've become very interested in understanding host pathogen interactions, and specifically in developing host-directed therapies, particularly those which are already in clinical use that can be repurposed for as adjunctive therapy for TB. And specifically, we're interested in the cholesterol-lowering drugs, statins, which in addition to their cholesterol-lowering properties also have anti-inflammatory and broad immunomodulatory properties. And it turns out that although they don't have a direct antimicrobial effect against Mycobacterium tuberculosis, they do enhance macrophage-based clearance of the intracellular organisms. And in fact, just as an example, we went all the way from in vitro studies to animal model studies showing that statin adjunctive therapy can shorten the duration of curative TB treatment in a mouse model. And now we're recruiting patients for a clinical, randomized clinical trial of statin adjunctive therapy, looking at microbiological outcomes in patients with pulmonary tuberculosis with and without HIV co-infection, but also looking at long-term lung function outcomes.
That's great. So my name is Antar. I'm a new junior faculty. Had the pleasure to work with Petros as a fellow. We had a lot of fun together on the HIV service. So I did my residency and ID fellowship training with a couple years of hospitalist in between, all at Johns Hopkins. And then I had gotten an MD PhD at Vanderbilt before that in viral pathogenesis. And then I did my clinical fellowship research work with Dr. Robert and Janet Silicano, and they lead a very large lab. They're HHMI funded, looking at the reservoir of HIV. So all of their research is focused on HIV cure. So that's what I'm very interested in. I want to be a part of the basic research that underlies an HIV cure. That's kind of focus number one, is trying to understand how HIV persists even in people who are taking antiretroviral therapy. And then focus number two, which is the topic of my K08, is we're trying to understand why some people, even though they're on antiretroviral therapy and their viral loaders are suppressed, their CD4 counts remain low. And that population has a higher morbidity and mortality rate that lasts for over a decade. So we're trying to understand that phenomenon and see what potentially can be done to decrease that morbidity and mortality rate in people who are living with HIV. And then, of course, since March, I think all of us are working on COVID-related projects. So I'm working with Yuka Manabe, who's a professor and the director of our HIV clinic, on diagnostic work around COVID too. So yeah, so that's me. And I guess I was going to talk a little bit about the transition from fellow to faculty here. And I have to say, there's a lot of things to say. First of all, our division is very welcoming and makes it easy for people who want to do academic infectious diseases, whether or not it's basic or translational or clinical. I've found among my cohort of fellows and the people above and below me, no matter what the academic interest was, everyone was sincere about it and pursued it. And that was very encouraged, kind of no matter what the topic was. And we have well over 70 faculty in our division that represent a diverse array of infectious diseases related interests. So I think everyone seems to have found a really nice home to do the academic work that they want. So I wrote a K in my third year of fellowship. I got a an award for kind of a fourth research year. And it turned out that I only needed about half of that funding before my K started. So my K08 started in 2018. So it's a mentored basic science award. And so I'm still actually doing my work in the physical lab of the Silicanos, doing HIV research. And so I'm still getting that mentorship from them for the kind of the first part of this K08 award. And then eventually the idea is I would transition to independence with my own clinical space. But the fellowship is really fantastic for that. There are every 6-month meetings where you sit down with a group of 20 senior members of the ID faculty, and they give you personalized advice on what you need to be doing to get your career on track. And I found that to be very helpful. And the attitude in the room was very friendly, and what can we do to help you, and you should try these things, and you should contact these people. And there was a fellow, basically, and it's personalized advice, so all my fellow cohorts found it interesting and useful. But beyond that, there's so many other things. I think our program directors are incredibly attuned to fellow needs, I think more so than I've experienced in any other academic program. So they are very welcome to feedback, and I've seen the program make many changes based on our feedback. So they take the fellows' interests seriously. I think, yeah, that I'm probably not even covering all the different many ways that Hopkins supports people who are interested in furthering an academic career, but there are many. And so I've had a very good experience.
Thanks, Annie. I was also going to mention some of the, just talk a little bit about the kind of environment and the sort of expertise that's available here at Hopkins for fellows to kind of take advantage of during their clinical and research time. First of all, I have to say that the faculty here are particularly collegial. There's definitely a collaborative spirit. I think part of that may be a function of faculty in infectious diseases, which in general tends not to be the most lucrative of specialties, and perhaps it selects for people who are altruistic and perhaps idealistic. So I think that may be part of it. But I think Hopkins is also especially collaborative. That's been my experience. I'll just give you an example now. So I'm working together with one of the other faculty members here in infectious diseases, Andrea Cox, who works on immunology in hepatitis C, and particularly vaccine development. But we, as Annie mentioned, there's been a lot of interest right now in COVID work. And so we've gotten very involved in that because, of course, we have access to biosafety level 3 facilities. So we, believe it or not, we are trying to handle 18 different collaborative projects right now, one of which is with Andrea Cox within our own division. And she's particularly interested in looking at the role of the inflammasome, which she has found is activated during chronic viral infections, including HIV and hepatitis C. And actually, just hot off the press data, yesterday we have very exciting data to suggest that SARS-CoV-2, in fact, induces the inflammasome. We've measured IL-18 levels in the supernatant of cells, and she has many knockout cell lines where we can really ask mechanistic questions. And she has also access to clinical samples, and is able, and basically has found that patients with severe COVID-19, that is, those patients with sort of this inflammatory cascade and evidence of lung involvement, severe lung involvement requiring mechanical ventilation, these patients have evidence of inflammasome activation as manifested by high IL-18 and IL-1 beta levels. So the story is coming together, so that's very exciting. And of course, this field is moving very quickly. So that's just an example of the collaborations. And I think in addition to being a very collegial environment, I think another thing that's worth pointing out is that Hopkins is sort of, I mean, it's known for its expertise in many different areas, and especially in infectious diseases. I think we have a broad array of very strong research programs at the cutting edge. And so it's very easy to find collaborators within the same institution, which I think facilitates research. And I think in particular for fellows, it's possible to have co-mentoring from two different faculties so that they can then chart their own course. And that's important too, because I think as part of their career development, it's important to kind of develop their own niche that is separate from their mentor. So it's possible to have expertise, again, from different sources or different mentors within the Division of Infectious Diseases, but also in other divisions, and in fact in other departments. For example, in the School of Public Health, there's the division of the Department of Microbiology, MMI, so that's molecular microbiology and immunology, where there's a lot of expertise, especially in parasites. And we're working together with one of our collaborators there, Dick Markham, who has developed a DNA vaccine platform that actually induces both humoral as well as cell-mediated immunity to viruses, including HSV, but also works for malaria, works for melanoma. And in fact, we just got an R01 to adapt this platform to target mycobacterial persisters to shorten the treatment of TB. And in fact, now we are applying for a supplement for COVID-19. In fact, we're targeting a new antigen in SARS-CoV-2. So this is just another example of cross collaborations. And in fact, I have one of the current infectious disease fellows is going to be, I'm going to be co-mentoring her together with Dick Markham. So this is just an example of the types of studies that, and the types of collaborative research programs that are available. Annie, you may be interested to know, I recently got a K-24, which is a career mentoring award that allows me to spend up to 50% of my time to mentor junior physician scientists like yourself. And so, I mention this because there are a couple of faculty in infectious disease who have these types of awards. And one of the programs that we're starting that you might want to take advantage of as you start transitioning more to scientific independence is we have a committee, we put together a study section that will actually review your R01 grants before you actually submit them to NIH and give you feedback. So this will be a real mock panel. So we have people, you'll get 3 different reviews from senior level PIs in the Division of Infectious Diseases who will review your grant and give you feedback 6 weeks before the deadline to NIH. And so you'll get like the traditional pink sheets, and we'll be able to get to maybe incorporate some of those suggestions before you actually have to submit to the NIH. And the goal, of course, is to try to improve the competitiveness of the initial R01s. And we started doing this actually with some of the current assistant professors who are now ending their K awards and are applying for new investigator R01s.
Congratulations. I'm very excited about that. And congratulations for the award.
Thank you.
Well, I think that wraps it up, but I hope everyone considers coming to Johns Hopkins, and feel free to email any of us individually. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.